Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of a weekly forecast. Today, we're gonna change the structure of the video. Instead of coming up with one video for every pair, we're gonna come out with one video every week, and that video will cover all the pairs that we want to cover for that week. So let's start with the Aussie US dollar forex analysis for 28 June to 2nd July. So we can see that the Aussie US dollar is still trading within this blue range that we have marked out last week. We expect price to continue a random walk in this historically range-bound price area formed by this blue box. But for the coming week, we expect price to break the low at around this 0.74 level or find support near this low to move towards the upside. So as usual, we will give both cases for every single pair for the upcoming week. Let us start with the more likely case, which is the bear case. Price on the 4 hour for the Aussie dollar looks ready to dump down, but you will likely find support at the all-time low, which is around here, 0.74. Even further down to the 0.72 level, where it formed previous resistance on 1st September 2020. So we think price will come down here, maybe find short pot, maybe break down, maybe find greater support. For the bull case, if the market for some reason finds momentum to the upside, we feel like price will be kept. It will be kept by this red line over here, right? And the reason why it's this red line is because there were a lot of times it got dumped from this level. So this is an important level where operators like to manipulate the price back to the downside. Now let's move on to the DXY. The DXY is still trying to find momentum or conviction to either the upside or downside due to some macro uncertainty. We expect price to hunt for liquidation points to the upside of the band, which is around here. As you can see, there are various liquidation points here where it will be juicy for institutional traders to try and liquidate. We feel like that needs to happen before price retests the conviction on the bottom of the range, right? To see how convicted the bulls are to hold this level of support, right? The 89 levels. For this coming week, we will cover the more likely case first, which is the bull case. We feel like it is likely for the DXY to continue to find some momentum towards the upside for this coming week. If price moves fairly quickly early next week to the 93.382 levels, it may find some form of minor resistance, right? Yeah, this level. So you might form some form of minor resistance, but it should quickly retrace and then retest the top of the band, which is a stronger resistance point for the bears to want to hold. And this top of the band is around 95. Right? Now for the bear case for the DXY, we feel like downside potential is fairly capped for this pair in the next week. If price for some reason finds some momentum to break to the downside, we expect a quick reversal, right? So it could come to this level or even further down, but we think that the furthest it will go will be maybe this level before it finds its way back up to fulfill the bull case that we have put up for DXY. Let's cover the euro dollar. So for the euro dollar, it is still, like a lot of pairs, is still bound by this blue range due to macro factors. There are some nice liquidation points to the upside, or downside that institutions might want to. It is not obvious, not very obvious where price would want to go for this coming week, even though the path of least resistance is to the downside. So let's cover that case where we think is slightly more likely to happen. So over here, we think that price looks immediately ready to dump to the downside. There is some short resistance here, but I think maybe we test or maybe fake out and then quickly down. And as it dumps down, we expect it to find support maybe at this level 1.17253, around 1.17. Find a short retracement and then dump further down. And we think that it is totally possible for price to find like stronger resistance down at this near this 1.15. So that is the bear case for euro dollar. For the bull case for euro dollar, we think that the bulls do find some momentum. It will be fairly capped, manages to find its way up. We think that it will limited by this little range that's formed here. So if it does break up, we think that price would come back up here and then fulfill the bear case. Okay, next let's cover the JPY. The JPY, if we look at the weekly from a macro point of view, it is range bound within this blue box. Right, I mean many of the other pairs, and this range could go all the way down to this level 144.701. Even though I think all these levels form some form of support for the price as well, but the deepest point is here, so I want to draw the box such that it always considers the worst case. Okay, so for the weekly, it formed a blue candle, pretty strong, but you can see towards the end of the week it kind of wicked back down. So while the path of least resistance is to the top here, right, to liquidate these guys, we don't think the JPY, the pound yen, is ready to do that. So we want to cover the bear case first. So let's go down to the 4 hourly. You can see here that there is this little fake out above the 200 MA, and it feels as if that price will continue to go up, but it quickly back down. And then there is this very strong engulfing forward candle towards the end of the week. We think that price is ready to dump immediately to the downside. It might find some short resistance here, but this is a fairly weak point of resistance. If there is any resistance, it will be short, and then price will continue to dump. We will test these stronger levels. As you can see here, there are many points for the institutions to exploit and to liquidate and to make money out of. So for the bull case, if price finds some momentum to the upside, we think that the top of the blue band is the upper limit. So this will be the upper limit, right? But what's the more likely case for a bull case is for the market to have a bit more indecision and continue to chop within this range here, right? So this whole range here. Okay. Right. So next cover the pound dollar. Okay, so for the pound dollar, you can see there was this historical range bound price area, and then price is trading within this range right now, trying to find conviction to either upside or downside. So we expect price to continue to trade within this blue range for a bit before the market finds conviction to either side. For this upcoming week, we think that the more likely move is to the downside to liquidate the longs near the 1.365 levels. So let's cover that on the following. Okay, so you can see here on the 4 hour that price has already started its descent, and the immediate support is here at this level, around 1.38. But we think this will be a fairly weak support, and if there's any retrace, it will be brief, and then we go back and test the 1.365 levels at the bottom of the blue box. For the bull case, if bulls do find some conviction this week, we think that they will first wait for price to continue more to the downside. and then put a fight around this region where there was previously buying interest at about 1.38. So after which they could push up the price. But we think that if price goes up, it will be very short-lived, and the bear case should materialize, right? Even if next week ends up blue. Okay, now let's talk about the next pair, which is the New Zealand dollar. Okay, so for the New Zealand dollar, similarly, there's this blue range, historically very choppy and hard to trade. So we think price will continue to trade within this range for the foreseeable future before conviction is found on either side. The two major liquidation points on the downside for this pair has been visited though, right? So one is this and the other one is this, right? So this point has been exploited by the institutions. There is this one last one here, right? But we don't, for people who shorted here and then held all the way down but didn't take profit and then roll all the way up, this is another opportunity for them to unwind their short at near break even. So that is one last one. We think that that's a possibility. It could happen, though not as convicted as the JP, the pound dollar for this. So let's consider the bear case. So we think that for price to continue to move down, there's this structure that needs to complete first, which is to first move up before finding conviction to the downside, right? And then maybe find stronger support at the 0.68 level. For the bull case, we think that if price finds momentum to the upside, right, there will be some support here at the 200 MA and then further support here, right? And after which it should come back and then chop within this range. So fairly capped movement to the upside for this pair. Now let's cover the next one, which is dollar CAD. So the dollar CAD has started its move back to the upside from the bottom of this blue box. You can see this blue box extended all the way here in 2015 and then again in 2017 and then now again in mid-2021. It's been historically choppy and hard to trade. But one thing that we see is that when it finds support at this green line here, right, there it could potentially move up another time. So for this pair, we expect price, though in the long term, for this pair to trade within this blue box, but in the short term, we think that price will come back and then test the top of this range. And there are attendees for the institutions as well, because there's a lot of liquidations that they could trigger here to make money from. Okay, now let's cover the likely case, which is the bull case. I think for the bull case, the retracement has completed and it is now ready to go back up to liquidate all these bears, right, to the top of the band. So immediately, I think 1.26 will be a level of resistance. Between 1.275 to 1.262 will be levels of very weak resistance, but it should fairly short and then price will come back up to test the 1.29 level. Now for the bear case, for some reason, bears outwrestled the bulls this week. We think that it will be pure manipulation by the whales to liquidate longs. So for them to liquidate longs, they need to maybe do this, right? And then liquidate the longs here. But I don't think price will stay at these levels for a very long time. Below these levels for a very long time. In fact, I think once it touches maybe the top here, it might shoot back up already. But this is worst case scenario to really liquidate all these longs that have entered here, fake them out, and then price should continue move up and then fulfill the bull case that we laid out. Now lastly, for the last pair of the week, we're going to cover the US, the dollar yen. Right. So the dollar yen, if we look at the weekly, it has this mega blue box range that was formed since the 2000s. Pretty much since Japan started its lost decade, right, during the last tech bubble crash. So you can see here there's this descending channel that's formed, and then there is it looks like price is starting to break up. So in the mega long term, we totally think that price will just stay within this blue box, not breaking out or down. But there is this smaller channel it looks like it's breaking out of, and for the whales there are a lot of juicy stuff for them to make money out of on these areas. So as usual, let's cover what is most likely to happen first, right? The bull case. So it's hard to see any older price action on the 4 hour. So I marked out red lines where I think might be areas of interest. We can see that price has been accumulating for some time now, and is now ready to break out, and there are no clear points of resistance except the red lines, which I think will be fairly weak. So what I expect price to do is to break out, come down for very short resistance, and then break back up and then come down for a very short resistance before making a final push upwards, right? And this final push should end around between 116 and 117. Now for the bear case, I think if bears do find some momentum, we'll first fake out, right? So it will pretend that, oh, I'm ready to break out, and then it will dump back down, right? Maybe to break all these points of liquidation. But we think that this downward move should be kept at around this level 108, because it is top of the channel, and if this channel is broken, the bull case is cancelled, and price should come back down and trade within this channel. Right, so we've come to the end of our weekly analysis, and see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.